Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing another Walking Dead video leading up to the 9th season for the Walking Dead television series. In this one, we're going to focus on and give our thoughts on whether or not we think Daryl can actually lead the Walking Dead. And if you guys have missed the recent videos in the last few days, been doing lots of videos surrounding, of course, The Walking Dead with regards to Season 9 after the recent news that Andrew Lincoln is reportedly going to be leaving the series in Season 9, or at least after Season 9. So if you guys didn't catch the videos, I'll have them in the end screen videos for you guys. You can definitely watch them after this one. The explanation of most likely what's going to happen here with Rick leaving, who's going to take over as lead of the series, and it looks like, based on what's being reported right now, it's probably going to be Daryl, or at least Norman Reedus is being offered the position with the departure of Andrew Lincoln, with the departure of Rick. So in this video, we want to go ahead and focus just on that part of it. We've done videos already talking about whether or not the series can work without Rick, whether or not it can continue to survive, our thoughts on the actual news itself that Rick is in fact going to be leaving. And in this one, we will give our thoughts purely on seeing Daryl as the lead character after Rick has left. And I have quite a few comments from you guys, which we'll get into in a minute, some of the different ones, and just continuing along with the different discussions surrounding the series with this recent news. But yes, the question about Daryl. So Rick leaves, Daryl takes over as the number one for The Walking Dead. What does that look like? Can it work? Does it work? How will it work? Leave your comments below, guys. Let me know for you if that works for you. You know, can you see a Walking Dead where you go to order the Blu-ray or DVD for season 10 or season 11 and you have Daryl on the cover instead of Rick? Like, what does that look like for you? Is that something that you feel okay with? You know, like, is that something that you would totally reject and you just feel like with Rick on, you should basically end the show because Rick Grimes is the Walking Dead and you won't be able to survive in the future and continue the series without him? The show will not be able to outgrow him or continue on past that lead original character. So Daryl is a strange one for me, and this whole news is kind of it's intriguing. So we'll do a video probably tomorrow or the next day on how killing Rick off could actually work. So in an ideal situation, if everything is done masterfully and all the details are, like, you know, amazing, how you could actually go about maybe killing Rick off and having the series actually possibly benefit from it, if there is any way to do that. Everything's possible, right? So, you know, tomorrow we'll discuss in particular how we think that could go and what it could actually do for the series beneficially, and actually be kind of a positive, turning a huge negative, you know, into possibly a positive, depending on how it's executed. The biggest one, of course, is who's going to fill Rick's shoes, and if it's Daryl, okay, what does that do for the show? Well, here's some things that we'll get into more in that video tomorrow, but for sake of discussion with this one, for Daryl, what it could do for the show to have him take over as lead. One of the biggest problems with The Walking Dead is the series has been going for so long. We have had over 100 episodes. You know, it's almost a decade now. We're basically, can we just say it, this is the 9th season, so we're basically at a decade. I know I'm rounding up here, but you know, it's pretty much a decade that The Walking Dead has been on for. It has never had a year off for hiatus and then come back after, like a lot of shows do, like Game of Thrones is doing right now, for example. This is a hiatus year for that series. So pretty much they have been bringing us Walking Dead in television series version and form for a decade now. It has been a decade of The Walking Dead. As such, it's basically always been led by Rick. You know, we've had certain episodes that have been canned episodes where you get to see maybe more Tara, you know, or you know, Maggie or Morgan. You know, some of his episodes were good, or Daryl too. You know, he's had sort of his own bottled off episodes, like in season 7, I want to say, with the cell, where he's, you know, trapped and everything and mopping the floors and all that. Not a great example to talk about, you know, Daryl leading the series, because that episode was did not receive good reviews, and most fans did not enjoy that episode. But the question of whether or not he can carry the show, one benefit to it, and again, we'll get into it more tomorrow, could be that you would be redefining The Walking Dead then. You would be basically saying the show's been on 9 years, 10 years, whatever, however you want to look at it, a decade, and that was that first decade, or that was that first part of the show. Now we're going to reinvent the show pretty much totally. I mean, you're going to have a lot of the same characters there, of course, but with Rick being killed off or with Rick leaving, you have Daryl take over. You have essentially a new show or a new section of the show that feels totally different from the prior season. So if anyone was getting bored or anyone was feeling like the show was going on too long or like they needed to end it with Rick as the lead, if you are to kill Rick off or if Rick is to leave, you get to redefine the show for better or for worse, whether that kills your audience or whether it reinvigorates your audience because you just brought on the biggest death in the history of the series. Even bigger than Carl is actually killing Rick off himself. Maybe you reinvigorate the series and people want to see all of a sudden this show that's been on for a really long time and it's kind of been, dragging its zombified heels maybe, or dragging its feet in the, swamp, in Georgian forest or something, is finally, kind of new again, or there's a different take on it than what we're used to. And that's probably best case scenario for this type of switch where you let Rick go, Daryl comes in, and he's not the same leader as Rick. He's not the same as him at all. Maybe Daryl is more cutthroat. Maybe Daryl is more action-oriented. Maybe he's more like, get a whole bunch of people together and field leader type of thing, go at it with whoever has killed Rick. Be it the Whisperers, if it's heads on pikes and Rick is dead and they're responsible, then maybe Daryl is sort of an emotional type of leader in a way where he just gets everybody together and goes straight at him right away for better or for worse. Either way, that could be very exciting to see, and I think that the audience, you could be turning Rick into a martyr, and then you could have the audience really glued, and some of that, latent audience that's left The Walking Dead in the last couple of years, since the season 7 premiere, getting 17 million U.S. viewers, and it being down to 6 or 7 near the end of season 8, maybe you get a lot of that audience back, and you're able to, before the series goes on too long, without them taking enough risks and changing things up enough, maybe you can bring back some of those viewers when people finally hear, they did what? They killed off Rick? Oh, I gotta see this. Everybody's talking about it, that kind of deal. And then you have Daryl continue. Daryl is a fan favorite, of course, of the series, but he's not the lead of the series, at least so far. Now, he's going to have to transition into that, and as such, he's going to have to change, I think. I don't think you can have Daryl be basically the same kind of guy who's grunting and doing this kind of thing all episode. He's going to have to be more articulate. He's going to have to do the speeches. He's going to have to, maybe be a leader of action and, fearsome leader. You could have him be a very fearsome leader in the show. That would be very cool. And depending, again, it all depends on how it's executed. It all depends on how well it's done. And I think shows like Game of Thrones really showed that it can work, even though at first you'd say it can't work. That's kind of a knee-jerk, no, there's no way it would work. There's no way you could have Game of Thrones after season 1 without Sean Bean. But then, they kind of twist that, and they do it with such expertise, and they do it so well that the audience actually grows afterwards. So, I don't think we can say for sure 100% that the series is going to just simply die just because Rick is going to be killed off. It's going to be challenging for them. It's going to be tough to redefine the show with a new lead, with Daryl, how he's going to change. Is he going to have a relationship, romantic interest in the show? Is he going to, how is he going to lead? Is he going to be similar to Rick in that he's kind of somebody who kind of is going to stay behind or stay in Alexandria and just guide the others on what to do? Or is he somebody that's going to get out there in, at the front lines against the Whisperers or against these other foes or these threats and get the hands dirty himself, and get in there and kind of lead in that way, lead by example, and also be kind of still a field leader, but at the same time somebody that everybody can look up to as the toughest, most badass kind of guy. Similarly with how the Saviors viewed Negan, but in a good guy type of fashion. It kind of, the possibility is that's exciting. That could be cool to see that new version of The Walking Dead that they may have to do if Andrew Lincoln does decide to leave. So, but it really depends, and you do have to redefine Daryl. You can't do it with the grunting and the wanting to be by himself all the time. Loner Daryl. A loner Daryl and maybe this is for the best anyway, because I think people were really getting tired of seeing that kind of version of Daryl, and they wanted to see more like season 4 Daryl, where they go out on a run, 30 days without an accident, and they go out with Bob and the others. If you guys remember the tires spitting on zombie guts and stuff, and they have to run, and Daryl's kind of leading them, and he's mad at Bob, and he's with the others, and so that kind of Daryl that we haven't really seen that much of. He's kind of been mostly a loner for the last little while, but he could be one that could really step up, and I think is a good choice anyway. Even though I wouldn't say right now that it looks like he would be, because he's a fan favorite in that kind of way, like a special teams type of character that kind of comes in with some of the fun factor and things like that. It would have to change for him to be the core focus. But I think, personally, my opinion is I think he could do it. I think it could work, depending on how they execute it. Kevin Means disagrees with me. He says, sorry, Trev, Daryl cannot carry this show. I love his character, but he's not a lead. What I would love for is Morgan to bring the Fear group back to Alexandria and merge the shows. I mean, overall... that's the only way to save this, especially if Maggie leaves too. And that's another question that's big with death predictions. Well, we did yesterday at the point when you guys, or maybe earlier today, depending on when I publish this. The question of if Maggie leaves too and Rick leaves, you really have kind of a shrunken down cast as far as the A-listers go. You've taken two, your A+, your top character in the show, taken him out. One of your other top characters, Maggie, taken her out. And who is left to continue on after that is a big question mark, right? A huge question mark. So for Kevin, Daryl will not work as a series lead, at least not in the way he views Daryl right now. And I know a lot of you guys are saying the same kind of thing, like, no, it's not going to work. And again, if you don't like Daryl, then of course you're not going to want to see that. But somebody has to be there, and Morgan has to kind of help lead Fear, I think. And I think they want to keep both shows separate, even though it could be a cool idea to see them combined to save The Walking Dead, and that could be good. I don't think AMC would want to do that, because then you lose those other 16 episodes of the other show, and they're not doing too bad right now. A few million views, U.S. viewers per episode, not terrible. They're doing okay. They're not doing too badly with Fear. So, I don't think they want to do that. But yeah, definitely leave a comment below, guys, and I'll have a poll here for you. Can Daryl carry the series? I think he can, but it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be tough for them to do it. I think he can do it. It's just, and it actually, I'm also saying too that it could actually be exciting and such a huge change for the show that maybe it's kind of something that they maybe even need without even really realizing it on first thought. And then we have TriBeCa's Finest, who says, it's never going to be the same, but I will watch till the show is canceled. I think Carl's death is the biggest mistake in TV history. And I really wonder, and you guys can also comment on this one below as well, too, because I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think that Carl's death played a role in Andrew Lincoln wanting to leave? I mean, it's hard to say that, it's hard to argue that it didn't, if literally he just killed him off last year in season 8, and then season 9, Andrew Lincoln is like, okay, I'm done. You know what I mean? It also brings the question, did they ask him if he's okay with it? I think that's something that a lot of times, with shows and that, a lot of times they don't include or they don't ask the other cast members or the people that are really important to the show, what do you think about killing off Carl? And are you okay with that? What do you, and honestly, see, is that an option? Or is that it can never happen, not an option, it's going to psychologically cause them problems because they've been on the show 8 years together, and even though they're both playing characters, he's still a fatherly figure in Chandler Riggs' life, looking up to him as a fantastic actor, a lead for an entire show. So, and the age of Andrew Lincoln, of course, as well, too, psychologically going into that... drive to want to protect your kids, want to support this kind of deal. And again, I know he's not his real son. I know that. I get that. But sometimes when you spend 8 years with somebody, even if they're not your real, kin, your real son, well, if you adopt somebody, you know what I mean, and this kind of thing. And yes, of course, he did a father in this kind of deal, and Andrew Lincoln has his own family, and I don't want to put words in people's mouths, but I think you guys get where I'm going with this, where it's of course, you could see him being scorned, and maybe he didn't communicate that at the time during season 8, but maybe he's maybe that does have a role. Maybe them killing Carl off really has put him to a point where he doesn't want to be a part of that kind of story anymore. Or maybe he feels like, well, Carl's dead now, maybe it's time for me to leave, and then they can kind of continue on afterwards without me because I've done my time kind of deal. So again, leave the comments. Let me know what you guys think. A couple more. Marilyn S says, comicbook.com also confirmed both Lauren Cohen and Andrew Lincoln are both done and gone during season 9. Norman Reedus did warn Gimple not to fire Chandler Riggs, and as we knew, Andrew Lincoln was not a happy camper when he found out what Gimple was going to do with Chandler. Really thought The Walking Dead was going to make it to season 10, maybe 11, but I don't know now. Looks pretty awkward, pretty sad. So I guess Marilyn's opinion of this one too is that, yeah, killing off Carl did have an effect, and has put them in a situation, or at least with Andrew Lincoln, where at least it's of her opinion that he doesn't want to be a part of the show anymore because they killed his TV series son, right? And you can definitely see that, for sure. You know, you can definitely see it. I think it makes total sense from a psychological perspective and everything. Lord O says, final nail in the coffin. It was fun while it lasted. Tricia Kringle says, you know it's over now, Trev. you know it's done. It's over. Last one will be from Full Syngento, who says, if this is true, AMC should just cancel the series, and that should be the end. So let me know what you guys think, man. Daryl as the lead of The Walking Dead, how crazy is it? Or is it something you always thought might happen and he might be the last man standing? And could he continue the series for another 3, 4, 5 seasons? Is that something you think could work and the audience would stick around for in a few years? Redefine The Walking Dead with a new lead. And do you think, of course, the biggest one I want to know is this other question of, do you guys think that Carl's death caused Andrew Lincoln to want to leave? And that's a big one, so leave a comment below on that one for sure. And that'll be it for today's video, guys. I hope you've been enjoying them this week. Just pumping for you guys, doing the best I can, make as many videos as I can for you guys to discuss all this craziness that's going on with Walking Dead. And if you like this video, please thumb it up below. You can also share. You can favorite. If you're new and you haven't subscribed yet, I would appreciate it if you wouldn't mind. Please subscribe. Help support the channel at the bottom left if you haven't done so yet. That's it for this one. I'll see you guys again soon for another video. As always, it's Trev. I'm saying peace. Later, guys. See you tomorrow.